Prime Video's next big move. Russ Wilson could have one too. The NBA and NHL playoff coverage reaction. The Don Garber interview reaction. ESPN's NFL end dispute. And we go inside Bristol for some huge moves. It's Marchand and Meterparel presented by our great friends at WSC Sports. Andrew, we're going to start the show with some sad news. The passing of New York sports broadcasting legend, the voice of the Yankees, John Sterling.
It is very sad. I knew Sterling very well. We all know on the air what John Sterling was like, his nicknames, his unique home run call. But I got to know him off the air, and he was just as unique. I'm always hesitant to say there'll never be another meet, but I don't think there'll ever be another John Sterling. When you called his cell phone, he first said, "Congratulations, you've reached John Sterling." So a very unique guy on the air, the one that will always kind of has gone through all of baseball, where he would say, "You can't predict baseball, Susan," which is, with his partner, Susan Waldman. So very sad news that we woke up to as we were about to do the podcast.
Well said, Andrew. And I think back to my days on Boston Sports Radio. When I think about John Sterling, I think about playing his calls pretty much every other day, it seemed, when the Yankees were playing and they were playing the Red Sox specifically. We'd almost start the shows with John Sterling home run calls, the Burn Baby Burns, the Giambino, All Rise for Aaron Judge, you name it, we played it. Not many guys you could say that about around the country who are creative and entertaining and informative. And I think back to his days with the Atlanta Hawks when I was a kid watching TBS when I first got cable TV, and I watched those games, and he was calling Dominique Wilkins and Doc Rivers, and I just thought he was a really good television broadcaster. So he had a creative career and he had an entertaining career, and if you leave that legacy in broadcasting, you definitely did something right.
When he called the Hawks, Dominique Wilkins, as you said, was their star, and he started doing his calls back then. He'd say, "Dominique, he's unique." That was his go-to back then. So he kind of started those catchphrases back in the day. And when he first came to the Yankees, he only was really doing it for the stars. And then everybody would want one. I remember when Giancarlo Stanton came to the Yankees, I can't even say the saying that he used, but it was Italian. I don't think Stanton is Italian. It was such a controversy. I had to call him up and talk to him about it. People wanted him to change it, but it kind of worked after a while because it was so out there. And that was the thing about his broadcast. When you listen to a Sterling broadcast, if you wanted to know everything that was happening on the field, he wasn't necessarily the broadcaster for you because he had a talk show host roots, and you could hear it when he'd call a game. So he would be talking about different things. He'd go to his "it is high, it is far, it is gone," and it might be a line drive home run. So those weren't his things. He had two legendary teams. One was with Michael Kay, who went on to become the TV voice of the Yankees. And then the other is with Susan Waldman. And with Waldman, I was on the road a lot when I was covering the Yankees. I was at ESPN with them. They were a work marriage couple, husband and wife, kind of, not actually husband and wife. But the thing I always enjoyed on the air, if the Yankees weren't playing well, the two of them kvetching, or if the game was too long, just kvetching and kvetching. It was very New York sound. He just retired, not last year, but the year previous. And he's one of those people that his life was at the ballpark, and what a life he had.
It's one of those guys that you wanted to listen to because he made you laugh. I remember driving to upstate New York and, before satellite radio and trying to pick up the games. And I'd be happy when I did because I never really heard 9 innings of John Sterling, but this gave me a good listen on the way on a 4-hour ride. And again, there's not many people you could say that about, especially today.
And lastly from me is that, Susan was his perfect partner because he got to do all 9 innings. And the stamina he had, like I said, he retired a couple of years ago. He was in his 80s. Some people thought he might have been older than he said at the end of his career. I've heard some crazy stories about, some IDs that might have been fake or whatever.
Add 5 years?
Yeah, or no, just I think subtracted some years.
Subtract, right.
But he called all 9 innings, and his voice was amazing. Most people, as they get older, their voice thins out. Mine started thin. So, but his voice was strong into his 80s. Just an amazing life, one of a kind. So we're doing the podcast a little bit differently this week. We were going to do it this way anyway. We're going to move the what's up and what's down just to where it is in the topics. But so that worked out. And we're going to make this whole podcast free to everybody. So, but if you want to subscribe, our twice a week podcast available at andrewmarchand.com, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursday, we have Orand in for his monthly visit. We'll talk a lot of NFL and negotiations and get on some other business topics. And then our event is next Tuesday. Gabe Spitzer, VP of Netflix, will be our guest. We are a twice weekly podcast, as I mentioned, andrewmarchand.com. One other thing about John and Susan doing the games is when Susan would do a read, she'd be indignant about it because they have so many reads during those Yankee games to make up the money because they pay a big fee on FAN. She'd be indignant. We're not going to be indignant, though, about our sponsor, WSC Sports Creator Program connects verified YouTube and social creators with legal access to your game footage. WSC handles everything creator activation, tracking, optimization, and monetization. The result, hundreds of millions of incremental views, deeper engagement, and new revenue streams. NBA, Bundesliga, top-ranked boxing, they're all profiting. They use it. Learn how at WSC-sports.com. Again, Gabe Spitzer, next Tuesday afternoon. Sign up. Can't guarantee a spot, but if you're a paid subscriber, you get preferred access. All right, let's get into the other topics of the day, John.
Yes, here we go. Good use of the word indignant, by the way.
Thank you.
Amazon Prime Video made another big move as it is set to broadcast 3 Duke neutral site games next year. They got UConn, Michigan, and Gonzaga. What do we think about that?
I would say that is a big deal. There's a lot of talk about what it means for NIL. We talk about media here. I just think we've talked about this a number of times, what Amazon's doing. And NFL, NBA, Yankees local, Masters, NHL in Canada. Who's the number one college program? It's Duke. So they do a deal. They test out how that does. Kind of interesting. Charlie Neiman, who did the deal, he is a Duke alum, played water polo there. So that's interesting with the NIL aspect. We've talked about this. I mean, I've been talking about this for years now. If you look at who's the most likely of the streamers to be really competitive into the future, it's been Amazon Prime clearly, and they continue to grow.
I always come back to what you and RN say. Let's land the big fish. Let's go for the Tiffany franchises. You just detailed who they have. They're not going to go after, the school that's number 321 in the country. They want Duke. Maybe who knows? Who knows who's next on their hit parade? Might be a Kansas, might be a Kentucky. You could see that happening down the road. A lot of people have talked about what does it mean for ESPN? What does it mean for other networks involved with big contractual obligations? If I'm looking at what it means for the ACC, you're thrilled about this because your number one school is getting more big-time exposure. Not that Duke necessarily needs it, but I think if you're the ACC and you struggled a little bit the last couple of years with who you are, even though they've had a good run in basketball, not great like we've seen in years past, this is a helpful component to what they're trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. And the opponents, UConn, Michigan, and Gonzaga, those are all good games. I mean, those are games you're going to watch if you're a college basketball fan. Yeah, there is that component you mentioned, Big Ten, which Fox has a big stake in. It says that maybe Duke can't just have these games, especially that Michigan game. They should have the rights to them. That's always controversial. There always seems to be this issue of who owns what rights when it comes to college sports in the league, except for Notre Dame. It looks like it'll go forward. ESPN got some. They allowed them to do it. That's because of ACC ESPN game, and so they got some concessions for some games that will be on ESPN the next couple of years as well. That Duke said that they're going to participate in. So could be win-win for everyone going forward.
And what struck me on this story was the advancing the story element where you learned that Big Ten schools earned $1.37 billion last year from rights fees.
A lot.
That was just jaw-dropping. That's Marchand Sports Media-esque. That's a lot of cannolis, Andrew.
Amateur sports. Yes, very good. I like that. Very good meat. Amateur sports there.
All right, the NBA and NHL are in full swing, but I'm going to start here with my What's Up, the Kentucky Derby, specifically NBC's coverage of the Derby. They traditionally have been a terrific network. They've been a great partner through the years. NBC has been fantastic on her horse racing coverage but it really brought it to me at the end of the race. It was a terrific derby. Golden Tempo wins 23-1 long shot. NBC had the overhead camera and the detailed analysis at the end of the race from Jerry Bailey and Randy Moss, their two lead analysts, Mike Tirico alongside, and they told you why Golden Tempo came from deep in the pack to win the race. And it was outstanding panoramic shots from their cameras, from their drones. Lindsay Shanzer, the producer, she was terrific calling all the shots. Mike Tirico had great information about the history of Golden Tempo and the fact that he's come from back of the pack and the fact that he struggled, but he still ended up winning this race. So they told you what you needed to know, especially as a novice horse racing fan and someone that maybe watches Triple Crown races. They hit all the right notes.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. And my what's up is Donna Brothers. What a year for her to go out. She was a jockey. Now she goes out with the first female trainer, Sherry Duvall, winning the Derby. In the walk up to the race, Duvall said she was so honored to be talking to Brothers as the race was to begin. And then Duvall's story is unbelievable. Brothers has been working these races for more than a quarter century. Just her interviews, you don't see that often on the horse. You're not seeing that on an NFL sideline. You don't see Aaron Andrews on a horse.
They tried it with the Boogermobile, but
they did try with the Boogermobile. Donna Brothers, what a way to go out. So she gets my what's up for her Kentucky Derby coverage.
Yeah, she defined that the horse racing sideline reporting job, and I don't know how she didn't fall off the horse. But let's go to the NBA coverage. Kevin Harlan, Game 6, Orlando Magic, an epic teardown. Harlan, this is the moments he lives for.
Yeah, I mean, the Magic, you watched that game?
I did.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. The Magic could not hit a shot, and Harlan did kind of a reverse Marv Albert. Instead of yes, he kept saying no, no. And I thought that Harlan at his best. And he was on the story. The story was the meltdown by the Magic. Then they go on and lose Game 7 over the weekend. I thought Harlan was really, really good on that one. And Michael Grady, to me, in these playoffs, has, he feels like he belongs. Is he a number one yet? No, he's not a number one. But when you put him behind Iron Eagle, behind Kevin Harlan, and you have Michael Grady doing those games, I think he sounds good. We talked about Eric Collins last week. I think Grady has stepped in where you feel like, that sounds like a voice who can do playoff games.
Yeah, no, Harlan, I've ripped him before.
Yes.
And I've said that he's way too over the top, and, he can make your ears bleed at times.
He can be. No, you're right.
But that's also who he is. And, I think he's true to who he is. I do enjoy him in these type of games, especially when a team melts down like Orlando did. Could have used him maybe on the Celtics-Sixers series where Noah Eagle did a really nice job. I think Eagle works well with Jamal Crawford and Reggie Miller. I think that's a good three-man weave. They were on the Celtics-Sixers and the Celtics meltdown in Game 7. That's been a good group for NBC. I think they're going to be, in the future, they're going to be really good. A little feeling out process early for them, but they've gotten much better as the season has gone along.
I mean, very good points. The coverage overall has been good. The idea of not being able to find the games, you got to take 2 seconds and you do a Google and you find it pretty quick. You do have to be actively looking. The Celtics were on Peacock the other day, just Peacock, Celtics Sixers. I was watching the ESPN games and I didn't realize it till late that game was on Peacock. So I'm sure you were on it because you're Boston blood. All right, let's turn to the NHL. I want to get some of your takes on the ESPN teams. Let's just break it down for me. What are you thinking when you're watching these games over the weekend?
Well, it starts with McDonough. McDonough clearly is the number one guy. He's in that seat for a reason. Every game he calls, I think he does a tremendous job. Great pace. Good information, entertaining when he needs to be, good interplay with his analyst, Ray Ferraro. I thought Mike Monaco struggled a little bit in the Game 6. Watched on Friday night. It was Tampa Bay and Montreal. Monaco's usually really good. I think he might be a little bit overexposed at the moment. I think he's doing a lot. I know he's young. He was in the Red Sox radio booth this weekend afterwards. I don't know. He must have the best travel. Chris Russo moment here. He must have the best travel in the world. I don't know how he gets to all these games, but he does. And he's definitely a riser, and I know ESPN's very high on him. But I thought he struggled a little bit in that Game 6. Wischusen, Mike McDonough, to me, he sounds like a big game when he's on the call, but he's a little bit overexcited at times. Hockey, you got to be tempered, Andrew. There's so much ebb and flow to hockey. I remember our good friend Jack Michaels saying that to me when he got the Oilers job. Some guys just jump out of their skin. Jack Edwards was like that on Bruins broadcast. The best guys that do hockey are very composed. Like Marv Albert was great when he called the Rangers back in the day. Kenny Albert's great at that. You got to reach the high points, but can't spend the whole game trying to reach the high point. Does that make sense?
That totally does. The studio I like. I think Steve Levy, I've said this a number of times, he's one of the better studio hosts out there. Probably should have got the NFL job, in my opinion, after Chris Berman, left ESPN, that, the main job on Sundays. He's great. With Levy, you have Subban and Messier. So I like that they keep it a little small group. They don't need 15 analysts. They got 3, and that's enough a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I think Levy is one of the best hosts ESPN has, probably one of the best hosts they've ever had. He's a great point guard, and you could tell they like each other. Subban's gotten, in my eyes, he's tremendous. That guy is terrific. If you haven't listened to PK Subban, even if you're not a hockey fan, listen to him because he'll attempt at least to make you one. He simplifies it. You don't have to be, Joe Puckhead to know everything, but he makes sure that you are aware of what's happening. And Mark Messier is good, not great, but I think with Subban, he's more comfortable. So that's a good 3-man situation for ESPN, and they're building around it. I read a lot on social media about how good they are, and everybody out there tweeting about it. They're right. They are good.
No doubt about it. All right, let's turn to the NFL. I had a story the other day. CBS and Russell Wilson are in deep negotiations for him to be on the NFL today. That was for The Athletic, of course. Want to get your take. What do you make of Russell Wilson on CBS?
I think Russell Wilson will be an interesting choice. I also saw Luke Kuechly's name floated out there, Be Still My Heart. I think both those guys would be analytical choices. I don't know if they're dynamic enough. I think Russ Wilson, maybe he's got that in him. Not that Matt Ryan was Sebastian Maniscalco, but I do feel like you need to have a little bit of that entertaining element to what you're doing. That's why Nate Burleson is good in that role. He gets it. Maybe that develops over time. I think it's a worthwhile dart throw on either end. I think if Russ Wilson's the favorite, yeah, sure, why not? Go with another quarterback. They know how to break it down. They've been in the huddle, of course, and he's been in every film room. So I think it's a worthwhile, I don't want to say risk, but a little bit of outside the box thinking.
Is Russ Wilson a Hall of Famer?
No.
Okay. I think he is. I wrote likely Hall of Famer in my article, and
I'm tough on the Hall of Fame.
I am too. I thought that it's not like if I think he is. I just think you look at it. He won a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl. He's 5th all time in passer rating. About 10 good years. He made 10 Pro Bowls. I know Shedeur Sanders made the Pro Bowl last year, so I don't know what Pro Bowls mean at this point.
Yeah, throw the Pro Bowl out. You could make the Pro Bowl.
I think at one point it made a little bit more sense. I think he makes it.
All right. Well, I think he's in the Hall of Very Good, but
that's fair. I'm not really asking if you think he makes it. If you think he should make it, more if you think he will make it.
I think he probably will make it, yes.
All right, fair enough. So if you're CBS, you're adding a Hall of Famer. That's not the worst thing. Obviously the end of his career, he did have a meeting with the Jets. So the end of his career hasn't been that great. Steelers, Giants. I'd do the TV if I were him. He's 37. You're kind of hanging on. You're gonna back up Geno Smith with the Jets. That doesn't seem like a great move to me.
From Russ Wilson, we go to ESPN. What are they thinking on its NFL number 2 booth?
Yeah, I reported a little while ago about Dave Pasch and Jason Kelsey. I think Kurt Warner as possibilities, and Steve Levy. When you talk about play-by-plays besides Pasch, Steve Levy, Mike Monaco, Bob Wischusen, I think are all in play, though I'd say Pasch is the favorite. They want to see what the schedule looks like first. Once the schedule comes out in a couple weeks, then they'll see. I think the feeling is that probably a lot of international games, but they have to see what the NFL comes up with. If they need one team, if they need 2 teams, I think they prefer just having one team. If they do a deal with Kelsey, they'd have to negotiate that because it's not part of his current contract. So I'd say it's going to be either Kelsey or Warner as the analyst. And I'd say Pasch has the inside track, but there are some people pushing for Levy. And when you get into these things, people start discussing. You mentioned Monaco; he's on the rise. So if they want to go younger, he could be the guy. But I'd say Pasch is the favorite.
And that's another guy who's always calling good games. Passion's terrific. I think he's informative. He's entertaining. He's a little dry at times, but he proved with his Bill Walton days that he does have a good sense of humor. So I think that's a really good choice. ESPN has a stable of guys that are all, to me, very similar in terms of their ability, and it's a good thing because they're all really good. Put Rushusin in that category. Monaco's definitely there. So any of those names you just listed, it's a good choice.
100%, no doubt.
All right, ESPN's app is going to have the CW Live Sports included. That includes college football and basketball, ACC and Pac-12 action, WWE, and some NASCAR. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you look at CW, they didn't really have a direct-to-consumer presence. So, their president, Brad Schwartz, Mike Perriman, who's, leads their sports, they were looking for something, and ESPN makes sense. ESPN wants to be the front door of sports. You're thinking of watching live sports. I think YouTube TV probably has the advantage, and along with Amazon Prime Video, but I think ESPN is attempting to do that, and this helps. It adds. They have about 800 hours. You mentioned WWE and Next, which is popular. For those people who are willing to pay for things. Those are the diehards. They love their WWE and Next, and then you add more ACC and Pac-12. So you want to have as much as possible. Nick Dawson led that for ESPN on that deal. In terms of negotiation, he was the executive. So I think it makes sense for both sides. I mean, you can make an argument. Maybe you try to put your stuff everywhere. I don't know the financials involved, but it does try to grow together over 4 years and see where you can take it. I mean, I think we've talked about this, the rebundling consolidation that is going to happen. I don't see how it can not. It's pretty unsustainable for just every fan to have 15 different outlets. I think YouTube TV is very popular, especially younger people, people in their 20s have now grown up on YouTube. So to get YouTube TV feels very natural for them. And I think the price point and the ability they just announced this week that you can take any 4 games and you can put them together. I think that's good. People love the interface. They're probably the leaders there. But again, it still works out because YouTube TV, for example, is going to have ESPN Unlimited. So you'll be able through YouTube TV, you'll have ESPN, and then you'll have ESPN Unlimited, and you have the CW. So that works out for both ESPN and the CW. It's
a bonanza for any sports fan. I mean, you have no excuse now. There's everything you want to watch is available. It's just a matter of finding it. I think from a production standpoint, I watched a lot of the CW last year with ACC football. I think they were very good on that front. They did a real nice job. I think Tom Brenneman, has had a nice transition back in the booth from a package standpoint, from a just pure graphic standpoint. It looks better. It's a better presentation. It pops. Again, it's one of those, you look at it and you say, yeah, it's a big game. So the presentation was excellent by the CW.
100%.
You had Don Garber as your main event last week. What was your biggest takeaway? He did a nice job.
My biggest takeaway is he thought they were early on DTC. And he thinks that a major sports league, another one, will do something similar. I don't know about all the games, but I think if you look at it, I mean, you're kind of pointing to baseball. I think with their regional sports, their local, they're going to try to do something direct to consumer. It seems like, they're already partnering up with ESPN for the next couple of years. Then their deals all come up in 29. So I think Garber was very interesting. We had a heckler. Did you see I offered the guy your job?
Yes, I heard that, and I almost drove off the road. No, I was very upset. I texted my agent immediately after I heard it.
He was good, though. Garber was excellent with that. Garber was
I said, get me Arand's number. Get me Arand.
Garber was excellent. There's a guy I don't even know his name, but who was in the studio audience, and I brought up relegation, and he had very strong feelings about relegation. And I thought one time, I felt like a comedian. Like, how do you deal with the heckler?
Yeah.
But Garber kind of addressed it. So then I sort of let it go. But then I thought the guy would stop, but then he kind of kept going. It was not aggressive, but it was fine. And eventually I had to say that he could maybe host instead of Meterparel.
Yeah, I'm sure he took you up on that at the end.
He said he wanted to negotiate. All right, we haven't talked about Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini situation yet. As we have done for weeks and weeks now, so we might as well. You have a little something with your what's down.
Yeah, my what's down I got to admit I laughed, but then when I thought about it, I said that might be a little over the edge. ESPN Inside the NBA, we all know and love it with Kenny and Charles and Shaq and Ernie. They do this teams that are going on cruises after their end of the season. Orlando Magic on a boat, they're gone from the playoffs. Celtics on a boat taking a cruise towards oblivion, and as part of that graphic, which is nicely put together by the ESPN production staff, you see in the corner there's Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini holding on to each other it's the scene from the Titanic. When Leonardo DiCaprio is holding on to Rose, played by Kate Winslet. I did laugh, but I don't know. I think that's it. We're at a stage now, Andrew, where there's a bit of piling on going on. We know, they allegedly had an affair. We saw the pictures. We know all that. They've suffered in their home lives more than likely. Vrabel's in counseling, et cetera, et cetera. All right. When does this thing jump off? What are we just going to keep going there, or are we just going to keep it going? I don't know. It just seems to me a bit too much.
No, that's a fair assessment for sure. My what's down is the fact that nobody knows that TNT produces that show. It's on ESPN, but I saw it all over social media. People, saying ESPN did this, and they do put it on. So it's definitely fair to put it on ESPN because it is on their air, so they can't disassociate. But it is still TNT produced. That's why. I had a tweet. My guy Ryan Glasspiegel said how good Inside the NBA is. I think it's been good this year. I get it. Some of the shows have been a little bit shorter. It's been doing it a long time, so people always find when you get a little long in the tooth, sometimes you can lose your mojo a little bit. Okay, that's fair. But the show's been the same. It's produced the same. So you're looking for things to say it's been different. Maybe they've had not as good a year in your opinion. Yeah, that's possible. You watch every show and it's a presentation a little bit different because of how ESPN's games are and how they backloaded everything to the second half of the season and now into the playoffs. Yeah, but they're going to be on the same amount of time, I believe, over, because now they're going to be every day and you're going to go into the finals. That's my what's down, is people not realizing that Inside the NBA is produced by TNT.
Speaking of ESPN, inside ESPN news, what do you make of ESPN executive David Roberts, not the manager, retiring in August with Mike Foss having a chance to add to his portfolio?
Yeah, it's very big for Mike Foss. He's he was at Fox Sports, came over to ESPN, has really climbed the ranks. He's a favorite of Burke Magnus, the president of content. So he moves up. Dave Roberts had a very long career, was in radio, has been all over the place as an executive. So good for him to be able to walk away and retire in August. But they haven't announced the Foss aspect of it, but I do believe his portfolio will increase. All right, let's wrap up. We're sponsored again by WSC Sports. We got a great one next week. Gabe Spitzer from Netflix next Tuesday. Come join us, sign up in the show notes. I sent an email this past weekend. You probably saw rights holder, WSC Sports Creator Program, connects verified YouTube and social creators with legal access. WSC handles everything. Millions of incremental views, deeper engagement, and new revenue streams. You got full control. A lot of people use it, the NBA, etc. Learn how at WSC-sports.com. Meet Papa Clicker's at it again. There goes that man. What do you got?
Papa Clicker is just voracious, a voracious reader. He has a doozy for the World Cup. Herb Marchand, he's the Papa. He writes that a wonderful way to prepare for the matches is by reading Jonathan Wilson's The Power and the Glory, the History of the World Cup. The author provides a detailed review of each cup from 1930 to 2022, going into the politics, the behind-the-scenes activities, and the stars, including Pelé, Messi, and Andrew Marchand, who played in the games that have survived Mussolini and other major events to a point that over 1.5 billion watched the 2022 World Cup. While a long read, the presentation with each cup by its own chapter enables one to take a break to stop reading, but easier to pick up again. Any guesses on the Papa's rating?
4.6. It says it on my sheet. So, so how am I going to mess that up?
Well, I was hoping you didn't read the script. Yeah. Good show prep, as we used to say.
Yeah, I didn't know you had it all
4.6.
So 4.6, yeah. That's a great rating. So if you want to get ready for the World Cup.
I like books like that because it's one of those things where you keep it on your table while you're watching games. It's almost like I used to do with the old media guides.
Yeah.
Keep your media guide handy. keep your yearbook handy?
No, I actually like. I also do like how he said that each chapter is different. So you can just read a chapter and then move on, kind of like a magazine, like those long SI articles, or the Athletic has great long articles you could feature that you can just pick up and constant reading. All right, let's finish it up. Cakes or bacon game. We love the birthday game. I think I'm 1 for 6. Mace has to have the official record for us. 1 for 6, I believe. I have to be within a year. Was that what we said? A year within the birthday?
Yes, year plus or minus.
Okay.
1 for 6, you'd be hitting cleanup for the Red Sox with that average right now.
There you go.
All right, cakes or baking for Rory McIlroy.
I'm a golf guy. So
Huge golf guy.
Rory McIlroy, I'll say, is 33.
37.
Oh, I was going to say 37.
Oh,
it really was.
That window.
It was in my head, 37. And then I said,
37 years old.
I said, that's too old. And then, all right, 33. All right. 1 for 7.
Not bad. 1 for 7. All right, let's go to.
It's not good.
Don Staley, cakes or bacon.
Don Staley. Don Staley is 56.
Very good. He's a twofer. You're 2 for 8.
Yes.
That is right on the money. 56 years old. Well done.
All right.
Andrew Marchand. All right. Can he come out of the 9th spot in the lineup? Let's go to an actress from our childhood. Tina Yothers. She played Jennifer on Family Ties.
Tina Yothers, as I would say. I'm going to go 56 as well.
A little too high on that one. 53.
Oh! Tina Yothers.
Yeah. Tina Yothers, part of that family with Michael J. Fox and Justine Bateman.
Yeah, I was a big Justine Bateman fan.
Oh, you're only human.
Yeah. So, there you go. Tina Yothers.
Good job. You got one. You got one.
So, all right, 2 for 9. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We made this one available to everybody. If you want to subscribe, it's andrewmarchand.com. andrewmarchand.com to subscribe. Thanks, everybody.